In an ancient temple nestled in the mountains of Tibet, where morning mists danced between red and golden pillars, lived a young monk named Wang. The temple bells echoed across the mountain every morning, yet even their sacred sound seemed unable to touch the heart of the one who was considered both the brightest and the most troublesome of monks. Wang had arrived at the temple as a child, brought by his parents, who recognized in him an extraordinary intellect. From a young age, he showed an impressive ability to memorize the sacred sutras. While other novices needed weeks to memorize a few pages, Wang could recite entire chapters after only a few readings. His talent was truly exceptional, but like a beautiful flower growing in tainted soil, his wisdom was marred by arrogance. Years of study and his ease with the sacred texts fostered in Wang a sense of superiority that revealed itself in his smallest actions. During communal meals, he frequently corrected the pronunciation of other monks when they recited prayers, raising his voice to ensure everyone could hear his corrections. During meditation sessions, he looked disdainfully at those who shifted or adjusted their posture, as if his own ability to remain still somehow made him superior. But it was during the lectures and debates on the Dharma that his arrogance manifested most clearly. Wang had a habit of interrupting even the oldest and most experienced monks, questioning them not to learn but to showcase his knowledge. His questions carried subtle provocations, and his comments always referenced obscure sutra passages, not to illuminate the discussion, but to belittle those who did not possess his privileged memory. The younger novices suffered especially from his behavior. Wang had been assigned to assist in training the newcomers, a position that should have been one of guidance and support. Instead, he turned this role into a stage for his refined cruelty. When a young novice made a mistake reciting a mantra, Wang didn't just correct him, he made sure to recount the error for days, turning the incident into a small comedic story he repeated during meals. There was one novice in particular named Chen who stammered slightly when nervous. Wang developed the habit of asking Chen to read specific passages during meetings, knowing that nervousness would worsen his stammer. Then, with a smile he tried to disguise as benevolent, Wang would say, "Perhaps in your next life, Chen, the Buddha will grant you a more agile tongue." The older monks at the temple observed this behavior with growing concern. They recognized in Wang a pattern they had seen before, that of someone who confuses knowledge with wisdom, who amasses information but fails to understand the essence of the teachings. In their private meetings, they discussed how they might help Wang realize that his behavior not only harmed others, but also created obstacles on his own spiritual path. There were attempts to guide him. Master Leon, known for his infinite patience, called Wang several times for private conversations. He tried to show him that true knowledge of the Dharma is expressed through compassion and respect, not displays of erudition. But Wang always left these conversations convinced that the old master simply didn't understand his brilliance. At night, when the temple fell silent and only the distant sound of crickets could be heard, Wang would devote himself to studying the oldest and most complex texts. By candlelight, his eyes would scan page after page of ancient scriptures, his mind absorbing every word, every concept. But while his head filled with knowledge, his heart remained empty of true understanding. He did not realize that with each disrespectful gesture, each cruel word, he moved further from the true meaning of the teachings he so proudly memorized. It was an autumn morning when the old monk appeared at the temple gates. The cold mountain wind stirred his tattered robes, and a thin layer of dust covered his wrinkled face. His bare feet were calloused from long walks, and he leaned on a bamboo staff that looked as worn as his clothing. His arrival coincided with the monks' preparations for the morning tea ceremony, one of the temple's most sacred traditions. Wang was in the main courtyard, supervising the novices' cleaning work when he spotted the visitor. His first instinct was one of disgust. How could someone in such deplorable condition dare to appear at a temple of such importance? The old monk walked unevenly, sometimes dragging his left foot slightly, other times stopping to regain his balance. "Well, look at what we have here," Wang remarked loudly, ensuring the novices around him could hear. "It seems even beggars now dress as monks to try to get food." His words provoked nervous laughter among the younger ones, who, though uncomfortable with the cruelty, feared Wang's disapproval more than their own consciences. The old monk, however, seemed oblivious to the remarks. He approached the group with a serene smile on his time-worn face. His eyes, remarkably bright in contrast to his worn appearance, scanned the faces around him until they rested on Wang. "Young brother," he said in a surprisingly clear voice, "could you show me where I might join the tea ceremony?" Wang couldn't hold back a scornful laugh. "The tea ceremony? You must be confusing this temple with some traveler's shelter. This is a sacred ceremony, reserved for those who truly follow the path of the Dharma, not for—" He paused dramatically, looking the visitor up and down, wandering vagrants. At that moment, other senior monks in the temple began to approach, drawn by the commotion. Master Leon, passing nearby, stopped to observe the scene, concern evident on his face. Yet before he could intervene, the old monk spoke again. "Ah, I understand your concern, young brother," he said, still maintaining that serene smile. "But doesn't the Buddha teach us that the true nature of all things transcends appearances? That the purest water may be held in a simple clay cup, while a golden chalice may contain poison?" Wang felt his face flush. How dare this ragged man try to give him a lesson? "If you know the teachings so well," he replied sarcastically, "why not recite the Heart Sutra for us? Or would that be too much to ask of someone who can't even keep his robes in decent condition?" The courtyard fell silent. Even the birds seemed to have ceased their morning song. The old monk simply inclined his head slightly, as if considering the challenge. Then, to everyone's amazement, he began to recite the sutra, not only in Sanskrit, but also offering simultaneous translations in Tibetan and Chinese, his voice assuming a musical quality that seemed to make the very stones of the temple vibrate in harmony. The other monks, who had gathered around, exchanged meaningful glances. Wang, however, was not easily impressed. "Anyone can memorize words," he said, though his voice no longer held the same confidence. "That proves nothing." "Indeed, young brother," replied the old monk. "Just as any mirror can reflect the sunlight, but not every reflection reveals the true nature of what is being reflected." With these words, he bowed respectfully and began to walk away toward the main hall, where the tea ceremony was about to begin. The senior monks, including Master Leon, hurried to follow the visitor, some already whispering among themselves about the depth of his words and the peculiar aura of wisdom that emanated from him. Wang remained in the courtyard, his face a mask of irritation and confusion. For the first time in a long while, he felt unsettled, as if the ground beneath his feet was not as solid as he had believed. The tea ceremony that morning would be unlike any other the temple had ever witnessed. The main hall, filled with the scent of sandalwood incense and the soft glow of lanterns, was charged with a silent tension. The monks took their usual places, but their eyes kept drifting toward the wandering old monk, now seated in perfect lotus position, as if his tattered clothes and seemingly frail body had transformed. Wang, still disturbed by the encounter in the courtyard, chose a seat far from the visitor, but close enough to watch him with critical scrutiny. There was something about the old monk that deeply unsettled him. Perhaps it was the unwavering calm of his smile, or the way others seemed to gravitate naturally toward him, like moths drawn to light. The ceremony began with the traditional ringing of the bronze bell. Master Leon, in charge of the ritual, started to prepare the tea with precise and graceful movements, each gesture filled with meaning and history. Normally, this would be Wang's cue to make scholarly remarks about the ceremony's origins or correct a novice's posture, but today he remained unusually silent. It was then that the old monk began to speak, his voice filling the hall like the sound of a crystal-clear stream in a quiet mountain. "Tea," he said, "is like truth. Its essence remains the same, but the experience of it changes according to the vessel that holds it." His eyes traveled around the room, resting momentarily on each face. Some of us are like fine porcelain cups, beautiful on the outside but easily breakable. Others are like simple clay bowls, unadorned but deep and resilient. The senior monks began exchanging meaningful glances. That way of speaking, that depth in analogies. There was only one master in China known for teaching in such a manner, the legendary Master Chan Ming, famous for traveling incognito through temples, testing and teaching those he encountered. Wang, however, had not yet realized this. His mind was busy trying to find flaws in the old monk's words, searching for an opening to display his own knowledge. When the visitor began discussing an obscure sutra, Wang saw his chance. "Forgive me," he interrupted with a smug smile, "but I believe there's an error in your interpretation. The original Sanskrit text." The old monk gently raised his hand, and Wang, to his own astonishment, felt the words die in his throat. "Young brother," the master said kindly, "you read the sutras as one who counts the jewels of a treasure, always focused on cataloging each precious stone, but forgetting to appreciate its brilliance. Tell me, what is the sound of a mind empty of prejudice?" The hall plunged into deep silence. The elder monks were now certain only Master Ming posed questions in that way. Some had already bowed discreetly in his direction, a gesture of recognition and respect. It was Master Lian who finally confirmed what many already suspected. Rising with tears in his eyes, he prostrated himself before the old monk. "Master Ming," he said in a choked voice, "what an inestimable honor to receive your visit." Wang felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. His face turned pale as the realization struck him. He had treated one of the most respected Chan masters in all of China with scorn and arrogance. His hands began to tremble, and the teacup he held almost slipped from his fingers. Master Ming, however, maintained that same serene smile. "Do not be disturbed," he said, observing the commotion his identity had caused. "Appearances are like clouds in the sky. They change constantly, but the sky itself remains the same. This is why true respect cannot depend on what our eyes see or what our ears hear." As the other monks approached the master with questions and gestures of reverence, Wang remained frozen in his place. For the first time in his life at the temple, he felt truly small. All the scriptures he had memorized, all the sutras he could recite, now seemed empty of meaning in the face of Master Ming's practical wisdom and humility. The sun was already setting behind the mountains, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, when Master Ming asked to speak with Wang privately. The young monk, still dazed from the day's events, followed the master to a small pavilion in the temple gardens. The scent of lotus flowers rose from a nearby pond, mingling with the fresh evening air. Wang noticed that the master now walked normally, without the limp he had shown earlier. Even his posture seemed different. There was a natural dignity in his movements that had been skillfully hidden before. In his hands, he carried an object wrapped in a piece of ancient silk. "Sit with me, young Wang," said Master Ming, indicating a stone bench. His voice was gentle, devoid of any hint of resentment over the morning's events. Wang obeyed in silence, keeping his eyes lowered, unable to look directly at the master. "You must be wondering why I chose to appear in this way," began Master Ming, carefully untying the knots of the silk cloth. "In every temple I visit, I take on the appearance of someone most would consider unworthy of respect. Do you know why?" Wang shook his head, still unable to find words. The master continued, "It is in the moments when we feel superior to others that our greatest flaws reveal themselves. It is when we judge someone as unworthy of respect that we show our own lack of worthiness." From within the silk cloth, the master took out an old mirror. Its surface was crossed by several cracks, creating a web of lines that distorted any reflection. "Observe," he said, holding the mirror so that Wang could see his own face fragmented by the cracks. "This mirror has an interesting story," the master continued. "It belonged to an emperor who, in a moment of rage, shattered it upon seeing a wrinkle on his face. He demanded a new mirror, blaming this one for showing an imperfect image. But was it the cracks in the mirror or the marks on his face that troubled him?" Wang observed his distorted reflection, seeing for the first time how his own expression of superiority appeared fragmented and grotesque in the mirror's cracks. Master Ming went on, "Some people are like this broken mirror. They cannot reflect reality properly due to their own internal cracks. Respect, Wang, is not for everyone, not because some do not deserve it, but because some, like this broken mirror, are temporarily unable to manifest it due to their own karma and mental afflictions." Tears began to stream down Wang's face. Every word from the master was like a drop of clear water, washing away years of accumulated dust from his heart. Your inability to respect others, the master continued gently, is merely a reflection of the cracks in your own inner mirror. Your vast knowledge of the sutras is admirable, but it has become like a heavy curtain blocking the light of true wisdom. Then the master did something unexpected. He extended the broken mirror to Wang. I am giving you this mirror. Keep it as a reminder. Every time you feel the urge to judge someone as unworthy of respect, look at it. See how the cracks distort the image, and ask yourself, is it the imperfections I see in others, or the cracks in my own understanding that cause this distortion? Wang received the mirror with trembling hands. The cracked surface glowed softly in the twilight. But master, he finally found his voice. How can I mend the cracks in my own mirror? Master Ming smiled kindly. The cracks in our understanding are healed with compassion, Wang. Each time we choose to see beyond appearances, each time we offer respect, even to those who seem undeserving, a small crack is mended. True respect is not a response to others' qualities, but a reflection of the integrity of our own inner mirror. Rising, the master placed a gentle hand on Wang's shoulder. Remember, just as this broken mirror can still reflect the light of the sun, even a mind full of prejudice can gradually learn to reflect the true nature of respect. It is not something that happens overnight, but every moment of awareness is a step on the path of transformation. As the master walked away into the twilight, Wang remained seated, contemplating his fragmented reflection in the old mirror. The last colors of the sunset danced in the cracks, and for the first time in his life, he began to see beauty in imperfection.